Imagine stumbling upon what looks like a treasure chest, an object so fascinating that it captures the attention of an entire neighborhood. But instead of riches, this discovery unleashes a catastrophe so devastating it forever changes lives, sparks fear across a nation, and earns a place in history as one of the deadliest nuclear incidents. This is the chilling story of the Goiânia accident. In 1987, in the bustling city of Goiânia, Brazil, an old radiotherapy machine left abandoned in a derelict clinic sparked one of the most horrifying nuclear disasters the world has ever seen. A few simple mistakes set off a chain of events that spread radioactive contamination across an entire city, leaving devastation in its wake. This is a tale of human curiosity, tragic oversight, and a chilling reminder of the hidden dangers in our everyday lives. Our story begins in September 1987 when two scavengers, Roberto Alves and Wagner Pereira, stumbled across an abandoned radiotherapy clinic. Like many struggling individuals, they sought valuable scrap metal to sell. Inside, they discovered a mysterious, heavy machine that seemed promising. Unable to carry it in one piece, they dismantled it and carted its core, a dense chunk of stainless steel, home in a wheelbarrow. The men soon began experiencing strange symptoms: nausea, diarrhea, and alarming skin burns. Dismissing it as food poisoning, they continued their work, unaware that the treasure they had uncovered was a radioactive time bomb. At the heart of this machine was a small aluminum cylinder containing cesium-137, a highly dangerous radioactive isotope. As Roberto tried to break apart the cylinder, he stumbled upon its curious secret, a glowing blue powder that sparkled like crushed gemstones. Fascinated, he took the material to a local scrapyard owned by Ferreira. The glowing substance soon became a spectacle for friends, family, and neighbors, many of whom were allowed to take some home as keepsakes. One of the most heartbreaking moments of this story involves Ferreira's young niece, Leda. Enthralled by the glowing powder, she painted it on her skin, imagining herself as a fairy. But what seemed magical quickly turned nightmarish. Within hours, Leda became violently ill, along with many others who had come into contact with the radioactive material. While others dismissed the symptoms as a sickness bug or food poisoning, Maria Ferreira, Dever's wife, made a critical connection. Everyone who had handled the glowing powder was falling seriously ill. Taking matters into her own hands, she collected the remaining scraps of the substance into a bag and marched to the Department of Health, declaring, "The contents of this bag are killing my family." At first, doctors were skeptical, assuming it was a tropical disease. But Maria's determination would ultimately save countless lives. Her actions set off a chain of events that led to the involvement of medical physicist Dr. Alonso Montoya and his colleague Walter Ferreira. Armed with a radiation detector, Walter Ferreira went to investigate the mysterious material. To his shock, the device immediately maxed out its readings, indicating an extreme level of ionizing radiation. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he ordered the immediate evacuation of the hospital where the bag was stored. As Walter traced the material's origins, he uncovered the abandoned radiotherapy clinic and learned that the cesium-137 inside had been left unprotected for years due to legal disputes. The glowing powder had already contaminated scrapyards, homes, and public spaces across Goiânia, turning the incident into a full-scale nuclear emergency. Brazilian authorities launched an enormous response to contain the disaster. Teams of specialists combed the city, testing homes, streets, and waterways for radiation. Contaminated buildings were demolished, and thousands of personal belongings were destroyed. Over 100,000 residents were tested for exposure, with 249 showing significant levels of contamination. The cleanup efforts had generated 3,500 cubic meters of radioactive waste, enough to fill 275 trucks. Yet despite these efforts, the human toll was devastating. Lida, the 6-year-old girl who had played with the cesium-137, succumbed to acute radiation poisoning within weeks. Her aunt, Maria, also lost her life after suffering severe internal injuries. 2 scrapyard workers who had handled the material for extended periods also died. Many survivors, including the original scavengers, were left disfigured or permanently injured. The psychological toll extended beyond those directly affected. Fear and misinformation led to widespread discrimination against Goiânia residents, with people being shunned, denied housing, and even protested against during funerals. The Goiânia incident remains one of the worst nuclear accidents in history, a chilling example of how ignorance and negligence can unleash unimaginable consequences. It's easy to look back and point fingers, but the truth is, this disaster was the result of systemic failures, a broken chain of accountability that turned a forgotten machine into a deadly weapon. As we reflect on this tragedy, let it serve as a reminder. The dangers we don't see are often the ones that pose the greatest threat. Thank you for watching, and if this story moved you, consider leaving a like or sharing your thoughts in the comments. Together, we can keep history's lessons alive. If you want to dive deeper into stories like this, join our Patreon community, or subscribe to the channel for more fascinating tales from history. Your support helps us bring these stories to life. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.